Okay, let me just ramble a bit here. First, we've been talking about let's go slow. Laura, you've been on here 24 years. Ron, you've been here 8 years. For the entire time, medical cannabis and medical dispensaries have been legal in this country, in this state. That you can't go any slower than that. I mean, think about it. This is a conversation that should have been taking place in 1995. All right? So that's number one. I'm glad that we all seem to be rallying around that we want medicinal. I think that's great. I also don't think that we understand that, gee, we're going to give 30,000 people have already their cards and are supposedly buying. Are we going to go in their houses to make sure they don't take an extra bite of that chocolate? Do you think that recreational isn't happening? You know, it's like, you know, we allow everyone who's left-handed to steal, but you can't steal if you're right-handed. And a guy objects saying, well, all you're going to do is increase the franchise. And he didn't seem to notice that people have a left hand and a right hand. Come on, folks. Recreational or otherwise, it's happening. It's there. It's not going to stop because you don't want to have a store. We've already proved it. I understand the issue that people are afraid that the homeless, all 175 of them who live in Concord, are going to suddenly become a wave of zombie, doped up on marijuana. I believe that the cops who have to take meth, heroin, and sort of other things off of them would love that they had marijuana. I mean, come on. Would you rather deal with one of these guys on marijuana or on PCP? Come on. I don't think homeless is an issue. I know it's a fear. And let's talk about crime and safety. If it was proven beyond a doubt that the crime went down, it would not change a single mind. If it was proven that crime went up, it would not change a single mind. The fact is, we've had 30,000 people in this city breaking the law, doing this stuff. And it's happened with your neighbors. It's happened every day for decades. And you know why marijuana arrests may be going up? Well, gee, before you arrested the guy with DUI, well, if 1/3 or 15 or 20% of the people are using it, well, then, of course, when they test them, say, oh, yeah, you know, not only did you have 4 beers, but 30 days ago you had a joint. This is a joint problem. So I don't buy that. The issue of traffic, the issue of crime. Let's talk about the issue of location. And a lot of people believe that geography and your closeness to something determines what you're going to do. Now, despite the fact that I have pointed out that where I live, next to Ignacio Valley High School, for 51 years, one of our gentlemen's most favorite bars has been there at the entrance to the high school. Around, in the same shopping, we have a liquor store. At the same shopping, we have a general store. It used to be Albertsons, then it was Lucky's, and now it's Trader Joe's, where you can get wine and everything else. The most dangerous place in that shopping center happens to be the pharmacy. Which brings us to the next aspect. We know that tobacco, alcohol, sugar are probably the single biggest items that we have that are a problem in our society. We know that it's not going to go away. We know when we made it go away, we got the mafia, we got the Valentine's Day massacre, we got all sorts of other things. And we now understand that the opioid crisis, which was done by legal pharmaceuticals, is now being looked at saying, wait a minute, this stuff might be able to be good for them. You know, I have an expression. It says, if the placebo works, use it. It's your body, and yes, you have rights over it. On the issue of money, if the issue was resolved, that there wasn't a cash business, no one over here would change their mind. No one over here would change their minds. If it was resolved that, you know, this is as addictive as caffeine, no one is going to close Starbucks, even though a judge now apparently has issued an order that when you buy coffee, you're supposed to, it's going to be a hazard label that it's hazardous to your health. No one's rushing here to close Pete's. As for money, I should hope that business should be making money. Greed is a different issue, but greed and ruinous commerce. We have a lot of pizza places here. It's not for me to decide that you can't have pizza, although I think someone would actually knock off everybody if they came in with good Sicilian-sized pizza from New York. They would get toasted. Anyway, the question of who benefits, and we're talking here about, well, gee, we're all talking about the patient, and then we're talking about the business. No, we're not talking about the patient. We're talking about the residents. We're talking about our community. We're talking about our community that by the thousands are using something. And you know what they're using? A legal product. And let's look at this. Do I want any commercial product not made in Concord? Absolutely not. I want it made in Concord. If it's a legal product in California, it should be made in Concord. If it's a legal product in Concord, I want my residents to have access to it. And I'll give you a good example. I'm the only one in my house that likes spinach with cheese. I couldn't get my grandson to touch it forever. But you know what? It's a legal product. And if I want spinach with cheese, I get spinach and cheese. And I'll give you something else about the buffer zones. The reality is people use buffer zones as an excuse to block out where they can put things. It's a bloody excuse. And I will give you another example that will probably get me a bunch of hate mail. But when I was 11 years old, my mom dragged me into this place, made me listen for 11 weeks, only at the end to have somebody who, with the stinkiest sense, shoved this wine in my throat to say that it was the blood of her God and I had to drink it. Now, that's pretty close. And you know what? As an 11-year-old, I couldn't go out and buy that bottle. Why God didn't know I liked Pepsi, I have no idea. But nevertheless, access to alcohol is there. Alcohol is a problem. But I'm not going to convince you on that, and nor will it be convinced there. And one of the key questions, and I totally agree, one of the people brought up that it is immoral, that we have an immoral product. Well, when your God says it's immoral, I totally accept it. But I also have gods in this city that say you shouldn't eat pork. In fact, I got Jews and Muslims agreeing. I got Muslims and some other Christian sect that says you shouldn't drink alcohol. I got other groups that say we shouldn't dance. Another one that says we shouldn't have this. We shouldn't have dancing and makeup. Am I going to go empty the shelves of bacon, beer, and everything else? Because you cannot get a more solid determination than God telling you to do something. I totally yield to the veracity of God. I may not yield to the veracity of your God, but it's valid. It's like, you know, why are Jews circumcised in 8 days? Well, because God said so, and the parents believe it. I'm not going to argue with them. I'm not going to argue with you that it's immoral. What I am going to argue with is your ability to restrict my access to something that I don't think is immoral, that is not within the purview of your power. Nor should I yield that power, because to do so opens up an entire can of worms. And I'll give you an example of it. When I moved into this city 35 years ago, very shortly thereafter, there was a proposition put on this ballot by the mayor of this city that made the immoral practice of homosexuality allowed you to discriminate against them. It was immoral. There are still organizations in this city with big buildings that are going to tell you you're going to go to hell because their God said so. Next week, I will raise the rainbow flag here as mayor. It's not immoral to me. It still is immoral to quite a few. We need to have a respect for the other people in this community. We need to understand where our rights and our issues are divided from those of others. Now, the people of this state and every single precinct in this city said through Prop 64 that you don't need a medical card or a note from your doctor or from your mother to get this product. And now we're arguing about whether this product should be here. So I'm going to go through the notes. A, I affirm that we should explore medical and recreational use of a dispensary, as well as the non-storefront retail uses and micro businesses. It's in kind of earnest. It says non-adult use. Does that mean it's used by children? I mean, I don't know. Anyway, you know what I mean. On the thought of buffers, I think buffers are bogus. It's a boogeyman. It's an absolute boogeyman. And it's only used as an excuse to restrict things. We have liquor stores. Hey, even if we look at the liquor store, how about we have that, gee, you can have a cannabis dispensary within 500 feet of a liquor store. Well, gee, you know, wouldn't that kind of like make sense? All right. How about within 200 feet of where alcohol is sold? How about within 150 feet where alcohol is consumed? Now, planning commissions share any questions that the commission or council believe important to have answers. They have shared theirs. The most important question I have that I want answered is, why in hell should a legal product not be sold in this city? Why should you, as a resident, be denied the opportunity to buy a legal product, a legal, I should say, consumer product in this city? As far as directing the staff to draft regulations on cannibal use, cannibal, yeah, well, I mean, if you're into a cannibalism, I mean, maybe you smoke some. Such as cultivation. Cultivation means different things to different people here. And I think, and I would like you guys to reconsider, and like staff to explain. Cultivation to me means like building a warehouse, taking a bunch of rows like corn, sticking it inside and growing it. It doesn't mean to me growing outside. I couldn't care less if there was a warehouse somewhere in North Concord or somewhere else, which is going to grow cannabis. Hey, we already grow all sorts of various yeast diseases in various places. So for me, cultivation, as in production cultivation, is not a problem. Backyard stuff, I reluctantly voted on December 12th of 2012, and December 11th of 2012, to ban backyard grow because we had an idiot in this city who put 60 plants in his backyard in a rented house. All right? Sometimes you have to deal with laws because of idiots. I preferred, and we actually got, a situation where we said, okay, it will be complaint-driven. I still believe that there was a candidate for office who, on his court, they have every September bring out your weed contest. And they have a great old cook-off and a great old smoke down, and no one complains, so that's their problem. Now, my neighbor complains if my daughter smokes cigarettes, and I have talked to her about it, and that's the way it should be handled. I can see having 3 plants, not a problem. All right? If it is a problem for your neighbor, talk to code enforcement, bang, it's complaint-driven, take it out. But if it's not, I'm not too excited about it. I don't want to see 60 plants. Affirm or modify direction to place an excise tax measure before the vote is on the council, before the vote is on the ballot. Gee, folks, do you want to get money or you don't want to get money? If we don't put a tax measure on, then there'll be no taxes for it. Well, gee, you know, what's the choice here? Now, even though I'm a Democrat, and people like to say that Democrats never saw a tax they didn't like, having no tax, I mean, that's just stupid. I'm just plain dumb. All right? We should put something on. All right? If we are worried, and some people are, that the taxes will drive the black market, well, folks, those who are opposed will want to have as high a tax as possible, right? And it gives you an opportunity, all right? On the other hand, those who want to see something that maybe could happen, well, maybe they'll put in something more moderate. I don't care if we put in 3 and see what passes, 10%, 5%, 2%, whatever, no percent. All right, if it needs 2/3, okay, well, that's why we count votes. More interesting, if we put it on the ballot and it's voted down, well, folks, then we're not going to get any money. There's also one other aspect that I wanted to bring up as to who benefits. The people benefit. The people benefit because they are in control of what they eat. They are in control of what they use. I do not go, I buy sleeping pills for my wife. Actually, sometimes I buy them for me too. I don't need a doctor's prescription. If I take too many, I'll die. If she takes too many, I'm gonna die because she's gonna make sure she kills me before she goes. All right? So you have to have control over your own destiny. We're not saying we're going to make these things and we're going to force your kids to go and see it. We're not, you know, it's like, you know, I don't force the kids to go see naked bodies in the latest Kung Fu movie. You know, we rated it NR or 17X or whatever it is. And that's the same thing with this. So that's where I think I pretty much covered the whole thing. And again, my 2 big issues is it's a legal product. It should be made in here. It's a legal product. You should be able to buy it here. If you don't want to buy it, fine. If someone doesn't want to make a store here, fine. But I'm not going to tell them no. Even if you have a product that only 10% of the people are going to use. There's a lot of matzah being sold. Not a lot of people use it. Tastes terrible, by the way. Anyway, they should be able to buy it. And yes, they may have to settle with their God, but they shouldn't have to settle with the city. And that's where I stand. Thank you.